470-3520 or call us at +27 12 001 7679. Let your voice be heard. Adventist World Radio, powered by SID Media. From broadcast to baptism.
And I am very excited this morning and really honored to be joined by the guests that we have. One by one, let me introduce. Let's start off with Ms. Liesel Pretorius. She represents Freedom of Religion South Africa. Good morning, Liesel. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation.
Good morning, Millicent and listeners. Thank you for having us on the broadcast this morning.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. And we also have some people say apostle, other people say pastor. I also know that you're an author, you're a speaker, and you just, you're doing great things. And I'm very interested to hear why you have an interest in this particular one. Pastor Lucas Nkosi, good morning to you. Thank you as well.
Good morning, Millicent and the listeners. Yeah, thank you for having us. Yeah, I'm happy. I see one of our partners in the struggle for freedom of South.
Yes, indeed.
I'm happy you are here.
Yes, indeed. We also have someone who's not showing his face at the moment in the background. His name is Mr. Mlilo Busani, and he is a Christian who enjoys studying the Word of God. And we're going to be doing this together this morning as we try and understand these developments. So good morning, Abuti Mlilo.
Good morning to you, Millicent. Good morning to Lucas and Lisel. Thank you for having me.
Yes, indeed. You're the ghost in the conversation, but it's fine.
I'm sorry, my camera, I don't know what happened to my camera. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay. No worry. So the promotion and protection of the rights of cultural, religious, and linguistic communities, in short, the CRL, is a Chapter 9 institution, and that is a body upheld by the South African Constitution, which is the highest law of the land, instituted to safeguard democracy, to protect human rights. And the mandate of the commission is to promote respect for the rights of cultural, religious, and linguistic communities. And it also aims to promote and develop peace, friendship, humanity, tolerance, and national unity among and within cultural, religious, and linguistic communities on the basis of equality, non-discrimination, and free association. Now, the latest news that the CRL Commission has been up to is what has many, particularly Christian communities, I think, up in arms about surveillance of faith. And in a nutshell, they have appointed a Section 22 committee to regulate what we call the church. And today we're trying to understand all of those issues this morning. Let me start with Pastor Lucas. What drives your advocacy for religious freedom?
Okay, I beg your pardon. What does?
Okay, what drives? Why do you have an interest in this particular conversation?
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Yeah, the reason I've been like any other ordinary pastor who's concerned with reaching out to preaching, reaching out to people, fulfilling the mandate, your Matthew 28, 18, and 19 to 20 mandate, where Jesus is saying, all authority in heaven and earth has been given unto me. And I therefore say to you, go ye and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And lo, I'm with you all the way. And then, so this passion to see the gospel proclaimed, it's been there and it's always been there. So it's on those grounds that I see, especially if you also look into 1 Timothy chapter 2 from verse 1 to 4, that prayers should be made for all people. Now, the crucial verse there in verse number 3, it says, this pleases God, who wants to see all people saved and come to the knowledge of the truth. And then as well as speaking to, so that we may live a peaceable and quiet life in all godliness. Something that is important, like if you look into nations and the proclamation of the gospel, is that the gospel, is communicated better, is preached better in nations and countries where there's a peaceable environment that is that is into that has freedom of religion, because you can preach anywhere without limitations and alert people, of the saving knowledge of the Lord without hindrances and state interference. Now, having engaged now, seeing what the CRL was proposing even way back, whilst somewhere in 2016, after we've seen that this is what they intend to do, and even the language of that report to say, this is a threat, and it's a problem, because it's more of now, because when you say something becomes a law and legislation, then I'm reminded of a situation in Daniel chapter 6 to say, now you are told people who did not like Daniel, they said, okay, we can't find him on administrative issues. This man is good. This man is so excellent. How do we go about him? And they looked into his practice of faith, meaning how he prayed, and said, let's pass a law that will, temper with how he prays and so forth, and legislate. And after legislation, they use the law as an instrument now to come against him, to say, okay, man, you have broken the law in regard to this. So analyzing what CRL is doing, in their findings, that you look at those things, those are failures against the state. And then came a dangerous part where they're speaking out, proposing legislation, and you look at the ideas there, and you're like, this is tantamount to, infringing on freedom of religion, and will create a problem now for the preaching and proclamation of the gospel.
Thank you so much for that extensive, even I didn't know the history all the way from 2016 when this kind of started, and now we are in 2025. So it took a good 9 years, and now you're starting to see more of it in action. Liesel, you literally have an organization called Freedom of Religion. That's how seriously you guys take this mandate. Tell us a little bit more about you guys and the work that you do.
Yes, so what we do is in the name, right? What drives our advocacy is very simple. We have a principled conviction, and it's our mandate that South Africa, we want to see a South Africa where a person of faith can celebrate, they can speak out, they can live out their deepest convictions without fear or favor. And so our mandate as 4SA is to defend the constitutional space that makes this possible. This means we protect the autonomy of religious organizations to determine their own internal affairs. That includes doctrine. That includes who is your religious leaders. And we uphold, these rights that are enshrined in the Constitution. And we protect, one of our key things that we support is protecting religious organizations, protecting the religious community from interference by the state. The state needs to, there's a place for the state and there's a place for the religious community. And, the state cannot interfere. It cannot be the final arbiter of belief. It cannot be vetting who can or cannot be a religious leader. So this isn't, defending religious freedom isn't abstract for us. We really see it's a cornerstone right. And in a democratic society, if you have a country where you don't have freedom of religion, those countries do not have good democracies. It is, if you look at the history of the world, that is just what it is. So it's not just, even if you're not a person of faith, you should be very passionate about protecting religious freedom because it's a key democratic right. And religious freedom, it's so important. It's linked to your human dignity. It's a equality right in terms of the Constitution. So this is our civic promise, basically. We will keep on engaging the public space. We will keep on engaging government, parliament, even the courts if we need to say that freedom of religion should be protected, and we will raise our voice as a watchman when we see it as being threatened, where it's being misunderstood, and also to raise awareness about it and to empower the religious community to stand up for this right, to protect this right that we have. And this is our single-minded, basically, focus and what drives us.
Nice. I like that. But you've seen, and I love the fact that you went to the world and giving examples of other states and nations. You look at America and what's happening right now. Now I'm just, I know it's not part of, but I'm just interested, curious about, look at the developments that are taking place in the States. To what extent do you think then we are affected by it? Because they're also a democracy, and a lot of people have always looked up to America as the superpower, and they have become more polarized with regards to religion. The political left and right, it's literally a religious as well question of, okay, are you for religion? Are you against religion? What's your take on that, Liesel?
Yeah, I think it's regrettable that countries become polarized because of this. Because religion, if it's done well, is a unifying factor, and it will bring people together. So I think it's often when people misunderstand the issues, and I know there's a lot of emotions involved, but it's not are you for or against religion? Are you for human rights? Are you for rights and freedoms? Are you for democracy? And if you are a person who honors human rights and respects human rights, you will say, well, we have a society where there should be space for everybody to live out their faith or no faith. Our constitutional right to religious freedom is so broad that it also protects the right not to believe, and that we can be in a society where there's space for everybody in a respectful way, under the constitution, under the rule of law. And a lot of things, worrying things happening overseas, but we have a very good constitution. We just need to protect our rights in the constitution, and make sure. And when we see things happening overseas that concerning, take it as a lesson and say, guys, let's as South Africa not go down that road. Let's protect our religious freedom and let's protect the unity in our country.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to bring that a bit later on because I think it's a very important part of the conversation, even though it's, in terms of, territory far from us, but the mindset seemed to be very much the same as from my viewpoint. Pastor Lucas, you spoke about how you're not very happy with how the CRL Commission is activating their desire to more stiffly regulate religion in South Africa. Please tell us about the CRL Section 22 committee. What is it there that is not pleasing to someone who wants freedom of religion for everyone? I'm also very interested in this about you guys are both Christian. If it's about religion, are other different religions that are outside of Christianity okay with what's happening? I don't know, maybe my circle is too limited and I just have not heard from them. What's your take, Pastor Lucas?
Yeah, let me start with the last one. The impression that CRL is selling is that now maybe like the likes of Freedom of Religion SA and ourselves and others who are always too vocal, and it's now and then it's so interesting that every time you interact, with officials or whoever at the CRL there, yeah, the first thing they will be thinking, no, these people at 4SA. I remember even the first time, we didn't know there is a 4SA. It was there, the CRL Commission, when we were asking questions. They say, okay, are you with 4SA? No, these 4SA people and so on. Yeah, because now CRL, they like people who just buy into their ideas, even if those ideas are flawed, and then now when you don't agree with them, you get vilified and they look at you at a certain way. Now, on this issue of Section 22 committee and so on, they are trying to bring what was rejected in Parliament when we've been there, as well as, together with FOSA and other formation, the majority of, what they like to call umbrella bodies, majority in Parliament said this thing, they don't want it. Or, like your chairperson, Mam Togo Mkwanazi, she says she's belonging to a Methodist, church and so on. Even her church agrees with us. It's so funny. So she can't even follow, her church on this stance, because her church said in Parliament that this thing, because of the polarization of the faith and so forth, in this country, there's no way you can come up with legislation or this thing that will say we have, maybe this peer review council things and so forth, because it won't work, because we believe differently and so on. It can't be worked. But those who maybe like how they run their things in Methodist and so on. They are welcome for skills development purposes on how to teach them how do they do their thing. But to prescribe and impose this on everybody is not something that will be practical in the country that looks like ours. Now they tried, through a back door to say, let's then have this section in the 22 type of committee. And even in our liking, as South African church defenders, that's why you saw the march at the Union Building. We are of the opinion that even that application of that section was wrongly applied, because CRL put a comma in that original legislation where there's a no comma, because of at all material times that section 22 committee must include commissioners if it's rightly constituted according to that law. But all that we see about that thing, which is something that we have exhausted. We spent a lot of years since 2015 and so on hammering the same thing. And to many people, it sounds like it's very new. It's not new. We are in the 10th year of these conversations, and now it sounds new and colorful. And you look at the reason why this Section 22 committee was formulated is the very reason why we oppose this idea. It's peer review council, peer review mechanism, that language again. And the reason you are given, we are told, is because there are crimes happening, people are hurt, and this and this. And we've been saying, hey, if there's criminality, the laws of the land are available, issues of governance, those things are there, that address governance in within the law and the framework of policies and so on, that are still available. And issues of some people are eating grass, making people to eat grass. Those things are bizarre. Our courts have pronounced. So as far as we stand, this is a waste of taxpayers' money, because we have laws, we have pronouncements from the Constitutional Court where there are criminality. You remember even that pastor who sprayed people with doom. There was a court judgment. Laws are working, available. So what's the purpose of the state? And also even that arrangement last week on the 22nd, is it the 22nd or so at Rema there? That arrangement was so flawed, because they took the CRL, put it in the private venue, Rema, so that they use owners of the venue to prevent us from coming. And then a larger scale of the sector of Christians and so on were stopped from coming. And so even that arrangement is so flawed. That's why we are coming strongly against these ideas. As far as we know, solution has always been there. It's just that the CRL does not have the will to accept the solution that is available, and they try to be as creative. And as far as creative as they try, how far creative they try, it boils down to what was settled there at Parliament. And so this is not a new debate.
Very interesting points that you raised, Pastor Lucas. And it has me wondering, okay, if the law, as you are saying, is sufficient to deal with any criminal activities, I wonder, is it that the legislators are very altruistic and they really care so much for the vulnerable people who are being abused by people of power in the name of being a man of God, for instance, and shame. Other people don't read their Bibles, unfortunately, so they are very naive. And when a person says, I'm a prophet, they go with whatever prophet says. It goes because it's a prophet, and I must believe, some people really are like that. A lot of people, clearly, because how many people, I don't know if I should call it deception, but they followed what most of us would be like, come on, why would you even do that? Like, and that's probably how atheists look at Christians as well. Like, use your brain. Like, why are you doing the things that you... So it's very easy when you are on the other side you have a privilege that you see perspectives differently. And I don't know, it's your fear, because I think maybe it might be a fear that we probably that's arising, that there might be kind of a state persecution of religions or certain religious communities. Is that maybe the issue at the core? But also, if Parliament was not really keen on this, and we're seeing developments happening in what seems to be a very secretive kind of way, does it not then speak to the fact that this is bigger than Parliament? This is bigger than maybe South Africa. This is bigger than the people who are making the laws. Like, there's something bigger that's driving this than what meets the eye. I don't know. Who wants to try and go for this one?
Yeah, I think
Maybe.
Lizel can come in.
Well, I don't know if there's something bigger driving us. We look at what's before us, and the facts, we're a legal advocacy organization, so we approach it as people who work with the law and work within the bounds of the law. But if I may add to what was previously discussed, I just want to say, if 4SA is very vocal, it is because we are passionate about defending religious freedom, and we are a watchdog and a watchman on the wall for that. And yeah, we fully support the legitimate mandate of the CRL. The CRL has a very important mandate to uphold religious freedom. But when legislation is being proposed, as Pastor Lucas has rightly said, the moment you have regulation backed by legislation, it changes the nature of the regulation into state regulation, whether you want it to be or not. That is the reality of it. And that is an infringement of religious freedom. Inevitably it is, even though it's so well intentioned. We agree with the CRL. There shouldn't be abuse. There should be more accountability. We agree with that. We disagree on the method. And so yeah, legislation is still being proposed. And Pastor Lucas was 100% correct. When this matter was debated before Parliament way back in 2017, 2018, the Portfolio Committee on the COCTA, they brought out their report. They made certain recommendations. That report has since lapsed, but they made certain recommendations, and it is conspicuous that a peer review mechanism, a peer review council, was not one of their recommendations, even though the CRL was very strongly pressing it for it at that time. And when the Section 22 committee was announced in April, in the CRL's press release, it said it's a second, basically it comes down to it's a Section 22 committee that will, establish a peer review mechanism, is a peer review mechanism. That was again on the table, this idea of a peer review mechanism and pushing for legislation. And at the launch event, it was last Thursday, the previous Thursday, it was the second, I believe, the second or the third. It was said that the issue about legislation is about enforcement. Now, who's going to enforce this legislation? Now, coming back to the question that you actually asked, I don't know if there's a bigger agenda, but we are seeing trends internationally. People clamp down when there's crimes, but it's you have to be careful. Address the issue, but don't inadvertently. You can try to address the issue with the best intentions, but don't inadvertently open doors that can lead the way to your religious right, your religious freedoms being infringed. There are ways to protect abuse, even to prevent abuse, to bring perpetrators to task without sacrificing the right to religious freedom. And what do we do? What should we do? Awareness and education, that is within the mandate of the CRL, very important part of their functions. We fully support it. Raise awareness and education and enforce existing laws. When existing laws are enforced, it works. That's why the prophet of doom, he was sentenced. But I don't know if there's a bigger agenda, but we do see trends. We do see trends, and also in other African countries. And if you look historically at the world where regulation of religion by the state has come in, either directly or indirectly, it was not a good thing, to put it lightly.
Yeah. You remind me, I think I was listening to another apostle speaking about how he went and gave the history of the Dark Ages and the experiences of people during that time, which is why I think which is why the idea of state regulation of religion becomes dangerous when you've got, it's almost like you don't have democracy anymore. You just have a monarchy, and arbitrarily decisions are then made if you think that this one is doing too much and they're not doing as you want them to do, they're not worshiping the way you want them to worship, then you can take action against them. But as I think the message should, and I think you have reiterated, is everyone should be protected. You have the right to worship, and you have the right to believe what you believe, but we've got these human rights, and there must be equality, there must be dignity in how everyone lives and operates. That's important, and no one should take advantage of anyone. I just don't know how it's going to be done. And maybe Liesl, let's go to that. You seek clarity from the CRL on points that people are not happy with, or on some of the things that they maybe, I don't know if they've said they're going to do or they have not said yet that they're going to do. What would you like that clarity to sound like? What are those specific issues that you really want to be touched on so that there's transparency?
Well, I think there are various issues here. I spoke with the chairperson of the Section 22 committee in the past week, and he said to me they will be meeting this week and they'll have a planning session. And after that planning session, they will communicate their terms of reference, the discussion documents, and they will be inviting, public input. And eventually there will also be a schedule for public hearings. I don't know how soon this will follow after the planning session, but this is what will happen. So we want that clarity. We want to know exactly what the terms of reference are, because there were terms of reference read at the launch event, and there were terms of reference in a press release in April, but we want to know exactly what the terms of reference are. We want to see what the discussion documents are. We want to see that if there's public participation, it really needs to be broad. It really needs to include everybody's comments. So that means when you have public consultations, people need to know beforehand long enough so that they can get there. When is the consultation? Where is the public consultation? It should be in urban areas, in rural areas. You need to think about some people, I am blessed. I have my own vehicle. Not everybody has their own vehicle. Is it accessible to everybody? Not everybody has the same economic means. And then really to take into consideration what is being put on the table. We don't want, if a committee goes out and they have predetermined ideas, that's problematic. And I know it was reiterated at the launch event that was on the 2nd or the 3rd, was a Thursday, that, nothing's on the table yet. We will listen to everybody, but legislation is still being mentioned. And that's the one thing. If somebody can tell me legislation is off the table, then for us from a freedom of religion perspective, that is 99% of the problem solved, because if there's no legislation on the table, then you can have true self-regulation. We have no issue with true self-regulation, but regulation backed by legislation is not true self-regulation, whether directly or indirectly. It just isn't. So we have to see what these proposals are. But we can see that the agenda that there's this, up until the launch, there was the same narrative, from years ago, from the April press release, from the CRL when they announced this committee, it's still being talked about agenda, and previously the peer review mechanism. That is problematic. We're waiting to see what the final proposals are, but that is problematic. And I think the other concern is, and maybe Pastor Lucas can speak to this because he's a faith leader. I'm an attorney. Is that there are concerns as well with the composition of this committee, like who selected who's on the committee, how were they selected, what was the selection criteria? Because I've been hearing from faith leaders that they feel that some constituencies are overrepresented, they can feel that some constituencies communities are not represented. So these are all concerns. And this raises concerns about how democratic is this process. And I think this is something that needs to be addressed. Because the outcomes of the committee, if they want to go to Parliament with a report, it has significant implications for South Africa and for all persons of faith. And because faith is freedom of religion, like I said, is a democratic right. It will not only affect persons of faith, it will affect our democracy. So everybody should actually be very aware of what's going on here. And we need a process that follows the law, that is lawful, democratic, open, transparent, accountable, etc.
Very good points that you raise. It has me thinking of other legislations that have taken place, regardless of what the majority of people have said. Was it not last year with the Bella Act in education, the Basic Education Amendment Act? At the start of it, when it was still a bill, most people were not for it, and some people still have issues. Yeah, a lot of people have issues with some of the legislations. Your child at the age of 4, your child has literally to be in grade R, otherwise you're committing a crime. If I don't know, the regulation of homeschooling, the language issues, like not everyone is in agreement, but it's an act. It's now a law. So those are like serious issues of there are things that people want. What is democracy at this point when things still happen regardless of what the majority says? Pastor Lucas, you want to touch on some of the points that Liesl raised? Because I think I saw somewhere where you were also not happy with the selection committee and all that stuff. But I don't know how this is going to be fixed. There's too many blurring and almost,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's conflict of interest issues that are happening here.
Yeah, no, we have a problem there. You spoke about the Bella Act, something there happened. This issue of having one political party and represented in parliament, we should not go there any longer because of some of these things. Even if the ideas, the majority of the people on the ground do not want them, but once they go to parliament and votes are made, then the political party with the majority will use their majority to vote, and they will say these are the ideas of the people. Even on that hate speech, bill thing and so forth, how it passed. I remember even some of the comments I said, they were edited out, and I'm like, hey guys, you did not speak to those things. It's like they pick and choose. It's like it's a salad. Thank you, you brought ideas, but still we try to look like this was a legitimate thing, but we know what is it that we want at the end of the day, use our majority, and so that we pass them. That's why you look at participation, and you wonder, how did it come about? Because majority, wherever consultations were made, people were against. How did it go about? That majority in parliament was used so that they passed these things, because one party with more majority used their majority to push for their things. So in the case now with this election, it's so interesting that in April, even when CRL announced, this appointment, of the Section 22, the language there, if you read their press release, then it says it has established, meaning it's something that happened, and yet say we have appointed one person. The committee has been established. Yet we were told it's one person. So one person was the committee that has been established. Yeah, that's a problem. And now that announcement at Rema says we are launching the appointment of. You see? So how can something that has been established, be we are just launching it now? It's been there. And it's been one person. Now we are introducing other people. So other people came later in terms of timeline. So which committee was established, then in terms of timeline? And when were these ones brought on board, if it was established? So where are these ones coming from? But fortunately, I did speak, to the CEO, Dr. Mafaza, to say, guys, you have went it the wrong way. Where did you get these people? And he said, no, but we had to just sample, look at, your popular churches like your ZCCs, your Shembes and others. And then obviously they're representing a lot of people. So we brought them and added them, there, so that we bring them. I said, these people, you claim this Section 22 is for Christians, and majority of us, and it's so funny that even some of us who've been with this matters, we are not featured in these things. It's new faces, newcomers into this debate, that are selected, but on the grounds that, maybe they have large followings and so on and so on. But in terms of the law, especially your Section 9 of the Constitution, in application of the law, we don't look at things to say people are having a big following and so on. You may have 10 million people following you, but in the eyes of the law, your organization represents one. You are one. An individual of millions and one person in front of the law. You are two persons in front of the law. And we should not say, because you have a large following, therefore you are justified in whatever that you do. And so that's why even this idea of peer review, it doesn't hold water there. So the selection was done by the CRL backdoor. And I said to Mr. Mafaza, why didn't you call us so that we choose our people for ourselves? And he said, but anyway, no, it can't be. But don't worry, man. This committee will be consulting nationally. So I said, that committee, we don't recognize it. It's your committee. It's your people. It's not our committee. And then even if, we are to fix, the first item on that agenda regarding that committee is to disband it, remove all of them. Then have our own people that are duly, appointed by us, so that we can own whoever, is there, so that they run things as we want so. And it's so the scary part. They even call the police on us.
Oh, yeah.
And without security to say, you dare come here, I will deal with you. And
They don't want you there. They just don't want you guys there.
yeah, heavy security for pastors to say, you dare come there. We have picked these people. You don't tell us. It's like this. You don't have an invitation. By the way, CRL belongs to us. It's our CRL. They can't say to us, we can't be there and determine things for us without us. So that's a problem in itself. And we are not happy. We have to disband that thing. It's not necessary. It's not necessary for starters. But if there's a need, to say, oh, let's have it anyway, even though it's unnecessary, a waste of taxpayers' money, okay, fine. The compromise we can do is if we show up there, first item, remove all of them, have the one that, we chose for ourselves, that will be representative of everybody.
I hear you, Shane. I hear you. It's like it's a lot. And it's already 52 minutes after 8. Go already, like time has flown by so quickly. And I have said that if you have comments, I do have comments that are coming through just to show you what people are saying. We've got this person, Lee Charles, who has said the Father is in charge. Why are you worrying, guys? Why are you worrying? Ati, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against worldly governors, the princes of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness rather. But see, the prophecy declares that for unto us a child is given, a son is okay, and the government will be on his shoulders. What are we supposed to do given that? Pastor Lucas, let me allow you to have a say as well before maybe we wrap it up with Liesel. Well, okay, how do you see the future with regards to religious freedom and liberty of conscience in South Africa? And I know it goes back to the question that we started with earlier on about whether you think this is a global problem. Is that the direction the world is taking? We think we are in a democracy, but in reality, we're not. We are told we are, and we believe the propaganda that we are in a democracy when that's not the case. I don't know. Let me leave my conspiracy theories alone. Pastor Lucas.
Yeah, now there's confusion, even amongst the believers. And that's why I'm also appreciating platforms like this. We still have an educational gap, dealing with our people, the church people. God works through us. The responsibility of the earth, God has handed it to us. That's why you have in the Bible, in Proverbs 29:2 says, when the righteous are in charge, there's peace and so forth. The righteous must be in charge. And it says righteousness exalt a nation. And sin is a reproach to everybody. So if we are the righteous, the Bible says we must be in charge. We must be involved and engage in these matters. And if righteousness exalts the nation, then why not righteousness promote, exaltation of the nation? And then the confusion is between your faith and the aspect of the law. We are dealing with legal matters at current, and we should not confuse them with issues of faith. In Daniel chapter 2 scenario, somewhere in Cape Town, I made this scenario to say in Daniel 2, Nebuchadnezzar the king wanted to kill everybody. because they could not interpret his dream. Even people who did not believe in the faith that Daniel held, the king said, I'm killing everybody, with their beliefs and so on. It means you've been lying all along. Even those ones who did not hold the same belief as Daniel. But Daniel intervened. And in his intervention to say, there's no need. This thing is the level of God. And he saw the solution he provided saved even the people that did not believe in his faith. So freedom of religion includes even people that earlier you spoke about, you cringed to say, hey, how do they believe that? That's the space of apologetics. We will convince each other and so on, where, whether we believe right or not, but keep government out of it. But once you say law, the ball game is different. And understanding is needed to say we are dealing with a legislative matter, not the practices of belief. After we fix the legal aspect and make sure that CRL is, away from this, then we will use apologetics against one another and polemics, and we discuss who's believing right and so on and so on. Hey, your belief is strange and so on. Leave that space to us. Yeah, but as far as this, we are championing to say, hey, keep government, keep CRL and their proposal away from this thing, because they will create a problem for everybody.
The power relations is so kind of situation. Sure. Liesl, as an attorney, seeing what's happening, I don't know if you feel like, oh, this is a good space that we are in because we are getting to really see our democracy in action, or things are going left and very quickly. If things don't go your way, which would be the majority's way, even though we have said the majority, things mustn't just happen just because the majority says, everyone has a right to have a voice. That's true democracy. But if things don't go the way you hope they would go, what does that say about our laws? And maybe also people are listening intently wondering, how do I participate? This is an issue of interest for me. How do I become involved? How do people become involved? Even though some of you are vocal, but you still never got invited to the table where the decisions that really are going to affect people on the basis of law are going to be taking place. So Liesl, on the legal issues here, I don't know if you've got a message of hope or if you are going to be a harbinger, but good luck to us.
I am hopeful and I'm confident, but we also should not be naive and we should be vigilant. There's a saying that the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. We have rights, but you have to protect your rights. I need to stand up for your rights. In terms of our constitutions, our constitution, in terms of our law, we have the right to protect our religious freedom. This is why we are sounding an alarm. This is why we're speaking up as a watchman, because we see developments that infringe that. We say to people, if there are public processes, participate. Within the ambit of the law, there are various avenues that you can use to make your voice heard, to exercise your right. You can have a lawful, peaceful march, like that was held on the 8th of October. You can engage in these processes. If this committee eventually has a report to Parliament, and Parliament will need to have public hearings, so we will engage in that stage. If we feel that our constitutional rights are being infringed and nobody's listening, our recourses are the courts. There are many things that we can do within the ambit of our law. We just need to apply our constitution and the law. So it's not over, but we need to keep an eye out, and we need to speak to people, because there are people perhaps who are for this, not because they are nasty people, but because they are really concerned about abuse, and they're concerned about accountability. And those are legitimate concerns. And we can say to them, listen, we agree, this should be addressed. But here's how we can address this: by awareness and education, by applying our existing laws. Because if somebody makes a person drink petrol, that's not a religion, that is abuse, that is assault in terms of existing law. That's you don't need an extra law for that, just apply the law. So there are other ways that we can address this without infringing our right to religious freedom. We can empower more umbrella bodies. There are more umbrella bodies now than there was 5 years ago. And it's working in the most part of the sector. This is not of the religious sector. This is not happening. So can we duplicate that? Can we reach out to the part of the sector where there are problems? Often because people don't know or understand the law, let's help them to understand it. Let's help them to comply. And where they are criminals, we will treat them like criminals, report them, arrest them, prosecute them. That's the answer. Use the law that we have. We don't have to do an unnecessary thing that opens the door to violating our right to religious freedom and even the foundations of our democracy.
Thank you so much. And anyone can be part of 4SA?
So, excuse me?
Anyone can be part of 4SA?
Anybody is welcome to support us. We have a website that people can visit, www.4sa.org.za. They can subscribe to our newsletter and follow us on social media, because when these opportunities to engage happen, or when there are important alerts, we spread it through our channels so that people are aware of how they can partner with us, because that's an important thing for us, to empower the public to protect and exercise their rights.
Thank you so much for that. Pastor Lucas, I never asked you. I think people are listening. You're so well-spoken and you've captivated hearts. How can people be part of your work and your ministry? How do they become involved?
Yeah, no, for the purpose of simplicity, let them send me a WhatsApp message on 078-910-2593. Yeah,
it's safe to just give out your number like that. It's safe to just give out your number. No email, just your phone number direct.
Yeah, that's what, because it's a line that is saving people. Yeah, so that's why I know it's free. Yeah, don't worry. I have another one. Yeah, that's like also I'm done, people.
Okay, no, perfect. So that's how we can get a hold of both Pastor Lucas as well as Miss Liesel from 4SA. You have both been phenomenal. Thank you so much for taking your morning hours on the Saturday where you just want to relax to come and, help us understand these issues better. It's a very important one, and we do appreciate you fighting for people who sometimes are fighting on the inside, not on the outside. It's very good though what you guys are doing, and I hope that you don't relax and you lose and you give up because you feel like, but people don't care. It makes a difference in people's lives to have organizations and people like you who do the work that you do. So Siyabonga, thank you so much to both of you and the organizations that you represent.
Can I say something, Millicent?
Yes, we did have a ghost guest. Yes, sir, you may say something.
Oh, yes. No, thank you so much to Lucas and Lizelle. For me, it has been very educative and inspiring. And I do agree with all the sentiments and comments that they've passed, where I believe there is no need to legislate religion. There has to be a separation of powers between state and church, or any other forms of religion that we practice, especially in South Africa. So I've been really educated and inspired. And I just want to say that you did say that, is there a bigger agenda to the issue? Is there something bigger that is happening? And Lizelle did say that when we look globally, there is this trend we are seeing where there is a push towards to the situation that we are experiencing now. And I just wanted to say, maybe it's food for thought. Maybe Pastor Lucas would understand it. If we go to the book of Revelation, chapter 14 and chapter 13 and 14, 14 talks about the image of the beast there. And I'm happy Lucas was referring to Daniel as well, where we see such scenarios playing out there, where the law is used, to affect those people of faith. And in Revelation chapter 14, it talks about an image that is going to be put up, and this beast, the second beast, will cause people, to bow down to this image. So I believe that there could be a bigger agenda around this, and yes, continue to fight it, and we would like to be involved as well in that fight. Thank you.
Thank you so
Melissa.
much, Elder Busani. I think this sounds like we're going to have a part 2 of some sorts where we maybe talk about some of the nitty-gritties of, different beliefs and what people hold and how maybe some of these issues just seem political. I don't know. But I think there's room for conversations, definitely. All right, my time is up. Thank you so much to all of you for being part of this panel. You have been amazing, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend further and continue doing God's work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have a blessed weekend. Bye.
Amen.
God bless.
Adventist World Radio, SID Media. We are not general practitioners.